Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I thought I would compare the difference between dyeing directly over the top of a light blue shirt or reversing that light blue shirt and then applying the dye. So one shirt was washed and tied just while it was still damp, and one shirt's been soaked in soda ash like normal. I'm only going to show how I tied one shirt. The tying process is the same for both. For these shirts, I'm going to make them single geode shirts. So I'm using a washable marker and drawing an area on the front of the shirt where I'd like for the center of the geode to be. Then I'm going to grab only the front layer of the shirt, not both layers of the shirt. Lift the shirt up off of the table and give it a good shake. That's going to let the shirt fall naturally. Then I'm going to slide my hand down to the very bottom of the shirt and begin tying sinew lines from the bottom, going out toward what is going to be the center of the geode. I want to vary the distance between the lines, and I want to make sure that the tie or the shirt isn't too perfect. I don't want it to look like a bullseye, and I think that the messier the shirt is when you tie it for a geode, the more natural it looks. It causes a few extra folds and wrinkles in the shirt and various things which just make it look more natural. You know, if you've ever looked at a geode, they're not absolutely perfect. And so if you make your shirt absolutely perfect when you're tying it, it's not really going to look natural. Periodically, I'm going to lift the shirt up off of the table and give it a good shake, just to keep it kind of a little on the messy side. And every time I do that, I'm finding the center of my geode that I marked with my washable marker and pinching that area. Both of the shirts that I'm using for this video are the same shirt. They are a Gildan Ultra Cotton in the color light blue, but they are different sizes. The reverse dyed shirt is an extra large, and the shirt that I'm going to dye just the way it is in the light blue color is a size medium. So for the purpose of this experiment, the size difference in the shirts doesn't matter. I'm going to use exactly the same colors on both shirts. However, because they are different sizes and I'm tying them in a random pattern, there aren't necessarily the same amount of sections to apply dye to on each shirt. Okay, so this is the shirt that I'm actually going to use and do the reverse dye process on. And to do the reverse dye process or the color discharge process, I'm going to use a product called Out White Brite Laundry Whitener. I purchase it at Walmart in the laundry aisle. However, if for some reason you can't find any, I have a link down below in the description for this video for where you can purchase some from Amazon. By the way, I also list the colors that I used on the shirt, as well as a lot of the other tie-dye tools that I use when I tie-dye. I like to do this reversal process outside. and I wear my respirator for the entire process. I don't want to inhale any of the powder, and the product does have a smell. It's not horrible, but I still don't want to breathe it in. I'm doing 2 shirts at the same time, and so I've placed them in a plastic tub or container. Then I'm going to sprinkle them liberally with the Out White Brite and pour boiling hot water over the top. If you notice, when I pour the boiling hot water over the top, the minute it hits the Out White Brite, it starts to bubble and remove the color immediately. This part of the video is in real time. I haven't sped it up at all, so you can see how quickly it starts to work. I'm using a pair of cheap tongs which I purchased at the dollar store, just to kind of move the shirts around and make sure they get fully saturated, that the solution can get all the way down into the inside of the shirt and there's not any part left sticking up. By the way, the pink shirt that you saw, I'm going to do a comparison video like this one using 2 pink shirts. So stay tuned for that one. I'll be making the video for that soon. Okay, so I'm going to speed the video up, but I left the shirts in this solution for about 10 minutes. Then I took them to my utility sink, dumped out the Out White Brite solution, and rinsed them in cold water. I left them tied and put them into my washing machine along with a little bit of Dharma's textile detergent and washed both of them using a hot water cycle. Then I put them into my soda ash solution and allowed them to soak for 20 to 30 minutes before I wrung them out of my Panda spin dryer. By the way, I left them tied for this process as well. Also, whenever I soak a shirt like this that has previously been another color, or that I've dyed before, or that has any color on it, I usually pour a little bit of my original soda ash solution out into another container and I soak the shirt in that. Because sometimes colored shirts will stain the soda ash solution, and I don't want my main soda ash container contaminated with any kind of color. Okay, so here's what the shirt looked like after the Out White Brite. And I set it aside along with the other blue shirt and allowed both of them to dry out completely before I began applying the dye. For these shirts, I'm going to use a variety of blues and grays. I've chosen quite a few colors, so I've listed them down below if you lose track of what colors I've used on the shirt. I'm going to rack dye both of these shirts, so I've placed them on top of a rack, and I'm going to use my silicone cake molds to make myself an ice barrier around each shirt. To hold the silicone cake molds up close to the shirt, I'm going to attach some wooden clothespins to the metal rack. So when you're looking at the shirts on the rack, the left-hand side is the center of the geodes. And I'm going to begin applying the dye just about the same to both of the shirts. However, after I apply all of the colors, I'm going to start just randomly applying them further down the shirt. And like I mentioned earlier, both the shirts don't have exactly the same amount of sections. So for these shirts, I'm going to use washed denim from Dye Spin. Then the next several colors are all Dharma colors. I'm using Silver Lining, Grecian Sea, Timber Wolf, Peacock Blue, Nebula Navy, Blue Gray, and Gunmetal Gray. Those are all Dharma colors, along with Alpine Blue from Pro Chemical and Dye, and Blue MX2G from Custom Colors. I know I went pretty fast, but again, I have all the colors listed below in the description for this video. Okay, so now I'm going to add an additional sprinkle of soda ash over the top of the dye and add on a layer of ice. After the first layer of ice melted, I came back and added a second layer of ice and allowed it to melt as well. Then after the second layer of ice melted, I just allowed the shirts to both process for at least 24 hours after that second layer of ice melted. I actually was a little bit busy, and so I think these processed for about 36 hours after that second layer of ice melted. Okay, so here's what they look like right before I started rinsing them. As you can see, the dye's gone through to the back side really well, and I don't have a lot of excess dye left sitting on top. There is a little bit of undissolved dye, but not a whole lot. I started rinsing them in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. Then I untied both of the shirts and began rinsing in hot water to try to rinse out any of the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. Because some of these blues are really dark and I had a lot of dye coming out of the fabric, I went ahead and ran some hot water in my utility sink and just allowed both of the shirts to soak. I put a little bit of Blue Dawn dish detergent into the water, and then whenever the water cooled off, I came back and changed it out and continued the soaking process until the water was almost clear. Blues can sometimes be a little bit difficult to get fully rinsed out of a shirt. So I think I probably soaked these for about 24 hours before I finally put them into my washer. When I put them into my washing machine, I added a little bit of Dharma's textile detergent to the water and washed them using a hot water cycle. Then after both of the shirts were washed and dried, this is what they look like. Okay, so here's a quick look at both of the finished shirts side by side. The size medium is the one that I just left blue, which is on the left, and the one that I removed the color from is the size extra large, which is on the right. Before I start comparing them a whole lot though, I'm going to talk about each one individually. So let's start with the one that I just left blue. Okay, so I really like this shirt. I think it turned out really pretty. I got great color saturation in this shirt, and I think all the colors blend well together. The only color that I'm a little disappointed with is the silver lining, which is the color that's up close to the center of the geode. That color is so light. I need to flag that and remind myself each time I go to use it on an ice dye that it really doesn't drop a whole lot of color. So it's not bad on this shirt because obviously the just plain blue color from the shirt shows through, but it doesn't add a whole lot of color to the shirt. I do think it looks very organic though, and I think it looks like a great geode. Okay, so now let's look at the one that I did the color removal or the reverse dye process on, which was the size extra large shirt. I think this one turned out looking like a really cool geode as well. I really like it. I think it's really pretty. And here again, about the only color I'm disappointed in is the silver lining. I do think it shows up with a little bit more color on this shirt though, because it's not trying to go over that lighter blue. It's trying to go over a more white color. Which, by the way, if you ever go to remove the color from some blue shirts, the blue shirts kind of remove color weird. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This one, because the blue was kind of a light blue, it worked really well. It actually removed the color almost to white. And I was very surprised by that because normally, Out White Brite I think works better to remove color than like bleach. It will take it to a much lighter color without damaging the fabric. But I was shocked how white this shirt ended up after I removed the color from it. I was very, very pleasantly surprised. It will remove the color from other blue shirts, don't get me wrong, but sometimes maybe the blue is just a lighter blue. This is the first time I've ever had it actually remove the color almost to pure white. Okay, so here are the shirts side by side again. And when you put them up side by side, you can tell that there is a difference between them. The one on the left, which I went ahead and just dyed straight over the blue shirt, it does have a darker feel to it. I mean, it's not a huge difference, but you can see that the colors are a bit darker on the shirt. I mean, I did start out putting the same colors over a shirt that was already a darker shirt, so that is going to influence the way the colors look. And the lines on the shirt don't show up quite as much. They kind of blend into the blues and the grays, which makes sense because the shirt was just a lighter shade of blue. So the shirt where I removed the color seems to be a bit brighter and more vivid, and the colors don't blend together quite as much. Some of the lighter shades of blue, like the washed denim and the peacock and the alpine blue, kind of all blend together on the just plain blue shirt. You can see a little more color variation on the shirt where I removed the color before I began adding in the dye. I think you can also see a few more of the color splits, or at least a lot more of the color variation. I think there's probably the same amount of color splits on both shirts, but they show up more on the shirt that was pretty much white when I started applying the dye. The sinew lines also show up a lot more on the Out White Brite shirt. They just stand out a lot more than they do on the blue shirt. And then of course, because the shirt was pretty much white when I started applying the dye, the colors in general are just lighter. So I really like both of the shirts. I think it just kind of depends on the look that you're going for when you make a shirt. It also would change if I put a different color palette over the top. I personally like the look of a blue and gray geode though, with the blue definition or sinew lines, so I thought I would give it a try with that color palette. So if you guys have enjoyed this video, I sure would appreciate it if you would like it and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.